It's week 9, and this week we learned about libertarianism and Marxism. So it's really interesting to me because I learned a lot from the readings and from the lecture videos. And there is 4 different parts of what I'm going to explain. For the first part, it's what is libertarianism, self-ownership against redistributive taxation. So that argument is kind of saying we shouldn't be taxed, or the government ought not tax my income, and I should get the full amount of what I want, of what I'm making. So I shouldn't be taxed. According to the libertarianism, I should have a full amount of what I work for or what I own. So I shouldn't be taxed. That's the libertarianism side. The personal liberty side is how we choose to spend our lives. So it's what we choose to do. So there is a law against prohibiting things such as riding a motorcycle without a helmet or using illegal drugs. Well, on this side of libertarianism, if you want to use illegal drugs or ride without a helmet on a motorcycle, you should be able to. You should be able to go out and do drugs if you want to go out and do drugs. Don't recommend it, but the way libertarianism states is that you can go out and do drugs if you want to go out and do drugs. So, one critique of libertarianism, this is part 2. One critique of the libertarianism is that personal liberty does not only impact us. So say, for example, I was to go out and do drugs. Well, that would affect my family. That would affect my boyfriend. That would affect my job and my coworkers if I was to do that. So it doesn't only put an effect on you, it puts an effect on everybody around you. So libertarianism can't really effectively respond on this critique just because this critique is fatal. This critique could be fatal if you were to just go out and do drugs. If you wanted to go out and do drugs, that would be fatal to everybody around you. So next is we're going to talk about Marxism. So there's 2 parts to Marxism. There's alienation and there's exploitation. So exploitation of Marxism is unfair advantage of somebody, taking advantage of somebody, or it's like a form of theft. So if you, for example, say I was to take all the money that I earned from my job. For Marxist theories, this would be a form of theft, taking all my money that I make at my job and not having it taxed. That is kind of like a form of theft. And that would be the exploitation part of Marxism. The alienation part of Marxism is to be much more greedy, to be materialistic. And the critique of that is if we're working harder, we should be paid more. And that's a critique of the alienation part of Marxism. So now that I've explained the libertarianism theory and the Marxism theory, Marxism on the alienation and exploitation, I will now explain Professor Matt's response to the Marxist argument for public ownership of the means of production. So the means of production is like when you go out and work your job, make the money that you make at your job. So if we get all the money we make on our job, it would be hard to tax. We would want to have all of it if that would be the case. We would want to have all of it. So it says to argue whether that response works or if the Marxist critique of capitalism does indeed require prohibiting private ownership of the means of production. So I do not think that the response works to allow us to get all the money, just because there's some people out there who are unemployed. So the taxes we have to be taxed on does go to them, so they can live and have their life, a steady life in particular. So that would be Professor Matt's response to the Marxist argument. That is his response, is that we should get all the money that we make, but it is prohibiting private ownership of the means of production, because there are people out there who are unemployed and need the money as well. But that is all I have for week 9. It was very interesting and I enjoyed learning it. Thank you.